The Diamond Authority, the matriarchs of Homeworld. Whenever we were presented with the symbol of a Diamond Authority as well as the silhouettes, we were always given questions. And when they are debuted, we even have more questions than ever before. When their powers come into play, we always read their personality into them. And there are some that are just flat out terrifying. As White really puts it in Change Your Mind. Up to this point, it was terrifying in the last episode. Well, with the exception of Pink Diamond, the majority of them played as huge antagonists to the show. Of course, there's still a lot of character arc to put into this, and in honor of the first anniversary of Reunited, I decided to do a video of this. This is Dragon Videos presenting the character arc of the Diamond Authority. As I've said before in my previous video, I've liked the majority of the Steven Universe characters, and two of the Diamonds are my personal favorite. With the Diamonds, they always presented interesting qualities, personality, and abilities. Sometimes they were presented early on through their murals. However, I'm going to focus more on how they developed in terms of character. Some of you may have been complaining of how some of them were quick and fast, but I'm going to explain of how they went from this to this, being the lovable soft spots they have become and what makes it so effective. Be warned, there can be some particular spoilers, so I will not be responsible if some of you have not watched the series so far. And in honor of Season 6, I really hope that their character development gets along further and that with the Steven Universe movie, it brings out more of their redemption arc. Let's begin! What to think of Rose Diamond. I'm sorry, but I do like the nickname that she deserves. You see, in Season 3, she was a highly regarded gem, but in Jungle Moon, she came off as bratty, spoiled, and super demanding. We thought Aquamarine was a pain. And then, when we get to Now We're Only Falling Apart, A Single Pale Rose, and Change Your Mind, we learned that she's a little bit more complicated than that. She comes off as being an emotionally, physically, and mentally abused child who runs away from home and tries to follow the status quo of Homeworld. However, she was never able to do that, and thus always got punished for being herself, which is probably the worst thing ever to happen to anyone. How many of you have older or younger siblings that look up to you, or you look up to them? And then, of course, do you have any role models in particular that you worship on a daily basis? Now, when Pink was able to have her own colony, she ran things for a little bit, but didn't realize how boring and tedious it was. With Pearl's encouragement, she went down to Earth and began exploring. And as she did, she realized the consequences that came with her work. On the one hand, she had gems that could follow her. On the other, she was creating the kindergarten, the empty husk of what was left of the planet. It's at that point where she shed her identity and became Rose Quartz, that is a very complex character. And of course, I understand that the Crystal Gems are upset that she lied to them and practically left them alone with this information for eons, maybe centuries. But if you think about it, it reminds me of a certain Disney prince that always had to try to hide his true identity because of his status as a street rat. Now, can someone tell me who that Disney character is again? Anyone? Anyone? I guess it is Aladdin. Who knew? Anyway, putting jokes aside, Rose Quartz really was a special person. Now, of course, she really did hurt some like Bismuth, but only because she didn't mean to progress it that far, and in some ways it showed that she had some relationship with her sisters. If she didn't care, she wouldn't have allowed bismuth to be bubbled in the first place. And of course, there are those like Pearl and Garnet who miss her a lot because she played a huge important role in their lives. Now, in some ways, this shows of how much that Pink Diamond developed as a person. Though it's a sad and complicated one, it shows that Pink was the first diamond to recognize that their society was messed up in so many ways. One quote that I thought was the most powerful was, "We are taking life and leaving nothing behind." And that quote alone really speaks out of how much that Pink Diamond has changed. There she is, the queen of sadness and the redeemable diamond out of all the three. Blue Diamond was basically cold in the answer. She seemed merciful to Sapphire and cared somewhat about her, but when it came to Ruby, she wanted to shatter her just for fusing into Garnet. However, that changed when she was mourning Pink's supposed death. For thousands of years, it was as if someone hit a switch and she became less scary. Over time, Yellow wanted her to move on, but Blue could never find some closure. Her only way to do that was basically throw a trial when Rose Quartz supposedly showed up, and then had to face off the crystal gems in Reunited. Thankfully, when Steven showed off Pink Diamond's aura, Blue Diamond finally learned the truth of what really happened to Pink. Well, sort of. In Diamond Day, she still thinks she was Pink. Then, of course, there was the Diamond Day special Change Your Mind. It was by then that Steven said, "How many times have you locked her in here? How many times have you made her cry?" It's by then that Blue finally gets it, of why Pink ran away and faked her death. It was just to get out of their society. It was by then that things even began clicking in terms of if Pink was miserable, then so was she. And when she started to call Steven by his actual name, it was by then she showed some acceptance that Steven is his own person. But one of the things that even brought on, she also put into Yellow Diamond during their fight is, "Didn't we hurt Pink? She was suffering in silence for ages, just like our gems, just like me, and I know that you're suffering in silence too." That really screams out of how much she's showing, hey, if I'm miserable, and if Yellow miserable, and if Pink is miserable, then there's no doubt in my mind that all our subjects are miserable as well, and we are not being fair to them at all. Even though we have yet for her to be making up for the destroyed planets, at least she's taking a step in recognizing the damage they did amongst their own civilization. I know some of you have been unhappy with how Yellow's character arc came out, but it works in some ways. You see, in the beginning, Yellow was very dismissive to every gem who would talk to her. And then, of course, she wanted Blue, as I previously mentioned, to move on so they continue the gem colonies. However, we begin learning more about her, and it's a little bit more complicated than that. You see, she regrets giving Pink Diamond to Earth because she felt responsible in some way of Pink Diamond's demise, which we all know that's not the case. And even in What's the Use of Feeling Blue, she was upset over the loss of Pink. But true, their relationship was rocky. I know the thing is bad, but part of that reason was because of Yellow's relationship with White. It wasn't very positive as far as we can tell. And of course, there was the pressure of being a good leader that was building up in Yellow. Since then, she had to continue this facade for quite some time, and in many ways, we never even realized it was a facade in the first place. With her fight through Steven and Blue, Steven had to get through to her with if every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't have hot dogs, and explaining that if we were only things that are flawed, we would miss things that are happy for me, that are positive for me. It was by then things began clicking in Yellow's brain that she was in some ways responsible for Pink's disappearance, as well as the misery of others. It was by then the wall shattered into a million pieces, and by then Yellow was flat out crying. In a lot of ways, it ran straight parallel to Amethyst, who always buries her feelings in flat out. And of course, there's Topaz, who in some ways resembled Yellow Diamond. Rebecca! Since then, Yellow was, at that point in Ginger mind, open to her emotions, finally admitting to herself, I'm not okay, I am miserable, something needs to be done. It's by then she accepted the loss of Pink, then give peace to herself that she was angry, she was upset, she really cared for Pink, as well as for Blue. She wanted things done right. Since then, Yellow really showed that she loved others, but not in the straight-up way that we see with Blue. Oh no, not again. White, how many times do I have to tell you? Turn down your light. I will not be responsible for every audience to lose their eyesight. So cut it out right now. I mean it, White. If you don't stop, I'm gonna get Pink Steven here, or I'm not gonna talk about you at all in this video. Do you understand? Thank you. White Diamond really was a piece of work. Blue said that she can be difficult to reason with. Well, difficult would be the biggest understatement of all time. She was always the head honcho, the egotistical leader of Homeworld. And by then, her character dynamics really was something special. You see, in the beginning, she always thought everyone was a part of her that she would have to suppress. Emotions seem irrelevant to her, and that being compassionate just means trouble. And negotiations with her is like talking to a big, glittering, egotistical wall. Whenever she has to mingle with lesser beings, she always uses Pink Pearl, or what's left of Pink Pearl, to observe others, and if she doesn't like what she sees, her consequences are of unspeakable horror. White always puts Pink down and taunts Steven about being Pink Diamond in general. When White removed Steven's gem and let me know it was the most horrifying sight ever to witness in Change Your Mind, Pink Steven materialized right before their very eyes. He was something different. He was something beyond explanation. But it was also a sigh of relief for the rest of us that confirmed that Steven was who he always was. And I was so glad that Pink Steven knocked her down. This caused her to be extremely furious and throw a temper tantrum at the whole thing. I bet Steven's dish of the biggest insult ever. I am a child. What's your excuse? This left her to be embarrassed, and when she saw everyone else blushing like she did, it's by then she realized she wasn't perfect at all. This shattered her reality of who she's supposed to be. She's supposed to be this perfect, tiny, mighty being. But in reality, she's just as flawed as the rest of the gems, which for her doesn't make any sense at all. But we've yet to learn more about the backstory of the diamonds. Life's definitely more complicated because people who are egotistical and always think they're right all the time, it can change their reality when something drastic like this happens. So I do like the fact that the diamonds have a political arc going on, and I like to see how their characterization goes through season 6. So far, they're just unsure of how things are gonna go in the mile step. Just for them to recognize that their own society was messed up, is a good step to go. And I really do hope, in fact, we get to see more of that character development and their redemption arc, because they really are an interesting group. So folks, this is Dragon